I think one of my favorite tanks I've ever set up is my 5-gallon office tank, just because you get to see that slice of nature while you're hard at work. The only problem is it's kind of hard to find species that will do well in such a small tank. So I've kept chili rasboras as well as clown killifish in that tank, and I want to do a head-to-head matchup to see which one is the best. Hi, I'm Irene with girltalksfish, and the first category I want to talk about is cost. Now, it has gone up a bit since I purchased these fish originally, but I believe nowadays the average for chili rasboras is $5 versus clown killifish are more like $9. So definitely got to give a point to the rasboras. However, the rasboras are like only 3/4 of an inch compared to the killifish are 1.4 inches. So in my opinion, like both of them are schooling fish, but you're gonna need, I feel like, a lot more chili rasboras to make a difference, to really like see them in the tank, even in a 5-gallon tank. Sometimes they were just so small, like they would just hide among the plants, and then I would be like, where are they? Versus the clown killifish, I feel like they're slightly bigger, and therefore you don't necessarily need as many to really notice them in your tank. Okay, appearance. The clown killifish are really well known for these alternating bands of dark brown to tannish yellow, and the females kind of have a clearish tail, but the males are really known for that. Their alternate name is rocket killifish because it looks like a flame coming out, where it's got your reds, orange, yellows, even blues in it. It's so pretty. When you go to the fish store, you may or may not see that because the juveniles tend to look more like females, but as you can see, I mean, they're up at the top of the tank. They're very, very noticeable, especially right next to the light. And so I really, really love them. In general, even though the males are slightly prettier than the females, you do want a ratio of 1 male to 2 to 3 females, just because they are a little bit territorial and they will chase each other around. I wouldn't say they fin nip, I never saw that per se, but just be aware of it. As for the chili rasboras, amazing, amazing red color. I promise you, it is not photoshopped. I feel like most aquarium fish that are considered red are more of a red-orange, like a warmer color, versus chili rasboras are one of those rare aquarium fish that are this deep, cooler red color, like almost jewel-toned, very vibrant in person, and they've got these like black markings, like a little horizontal mark, and some on the fins, very pointed fins, very slender body. The bad thing is that they do have the bad habit of washing out. So when you go to the fish store, most beginners will never get chili rasboras because the juveniles are very pale and washed out, and they'll just think like, oh, it was just the internet making them look better. I promise you, if you take them home and grow them out, they will look amazing. However, even the adults, one time I moved the adults from one tank to another, and it took, I would say, about 2.5 weeks. Like, they were looking so good in quarantine, and then when I moved them, it took them 2.5 weeks to color up again. Like, that's how long they looked washed out and terrible. So give it some time, be patient. So I might maybe give like a half point to the killifish, just because they look really cool and they don't tend to wash out in my opinion, but it's all up to you, personal preference. As for behavior and personality, I would say the chili rasboras, they're not like some nano fish, because they're really small, they're gonna hide all the time. The rasboras aren't that bad. I would say if you're still for a few seconds, they will come up to the front of the glass and inspect and see what you're doing. I would say they're a little bit braver than even my cardinal tetras, which are hiding somewhere around here. And I would consider them a mid-water swimming fish, like swimming around the middle, but as you can see by this hyperlapse, they really swim all over the tank. Now, the clown killifish, on the other hand, I would say they're probably a little bit, really 0% fear. I come up to the tank, I'm waving my hand around over here. They are clearly not moving away, so really fun, active, not as hyper as some live bears I've seen, but active, fun community fish that I really enjoy overall. As for tank setup and water parameters, the chili rasboras come from the rainforests of Indonesia and Borneo, so imagine a lot of leaves falling into the water. That usually creates tannins, which usually means softer, more acidic water. However, in my experience, they are super hardy. They can handle a very wide range of pH from 6 to 8, as well as temperatures from 72 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And really the only thing special I would make sure there's lots of greenery, live green plants in the aquarium, because that will really make that red stand out and pop in your aquarium. As for clown killifish, they come from West Africa and spend almost exclusively all of their time in the upper 1/3 of the aquarium. So make sure, I'm begging you, make sure you have a tight fitting lid. Killifish are just known to be jumpers. They probably would enjoy, and the same thing with the chili rasbora as well, kind of slower current. So a sponge filter definitely, or if you do have another kind of filter, make sure you have a pre-filter sponge on there, just because nanofish, pretty easy for them to get sucked up. You want to protect them from that. And then other than that, I would say the most notable thing for clown killifish is the temperature range is mostly from 67 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So depending on how cool or warm your room temperature is in your house, this can be considered a cool water fish that can live in an unheated aquarium. So kind of pros and cons, pros I'd say to both. Chili rasboras, very, very hardy. Clown killifish can live without a heater. Speaking of temperature, the lifespan of these species, with clown killifish, I would say 2 to 3 years maybe. I used to have a school of them. I now only have 4 females left after a little more than 2 years. So you have to imagine when you get them at the pet store, they're probably already a few months old. So if you want to keep them alive longer, I would definitely encourage you to go with lower temperatures, just because the theory is the warmer the temperature is, the faster metabolism and the faster they're gonna speed through that lifespan. Versus chili rasboras, I have not kept them to the point where they're all starting to die of old age. So I'm not exactly sure how long they can live. The internet claims 4 to 8 years, so let's give a cautious half point to the chili rasboras when it comes to lifespan. When it comes to food and diet, they're both nanofish. It's fairly similar, just because you want very, very tiny foods or maybe something that's soft enough for them to take bites out of. But the clown killifish are, top level, and then the chili rasboras are mid-level. So you basically want to aim for floating / slowly sinking foods, because the clown killifish will go down and chase after the food. They just prefer to eat at the top, and the chili rasboras prefer to eat in the middle. But foods like, easy fry food is one of my favorites. Frozen rotifers and cyclops, rapashi powdered, maybe certain freeze-dried daphnia and nano pellets. I think the clown killifish are big enough to eat. And then for the chili rasboras, if you really want to bring out those reds, I would recommend crushed krill flakes and then live baby brine shrimp. Obviously, both of them really love. Out of the two of them, I would say the chili rasboras are slightly more hesitant about eating. So, I had them in a species only tank and I didn't really see them with tank mates, but definitely don't pair them up with anything that is just gonna gobble up all the food before they ever get to it. Versus the clown killifish, they hold their own against my betta fish. They are not picky eaters at all, and they'll go after it. Speaking of tank mates, the main issue with chili rasboras is obviously because they are so tiny, you cannot keep them with anything that would possibly be able to fit them in their mouths. I have personally kept them with sparkling gourami, autocinkless catfish, snails, but I'm sure you could try other nano-sized fish like green neon tetras, ember tetras, brigittae, rasboras. I'm sure there's many more on that list. Just again, be aware of anything that would eat them, as well as cherry shrimp. I think they would probably only go after the really tiniest babies just because they themselves are so small. The clown killifish, because they are slightly bigger, I feel like there's more variety in tank mates that you can keep them with. So in this tank, we've got cardinal tetras, pygmy cory catfish, but I'm sure they could do normal cories, of course. We've got coolie loaches, and then there is ginkgo the betta here. So as with all betta fish tank mates, your mileage may vary depending on your betta's personality. Ginkgo doesn't seem to mind them, even though they are top dwelling fish in his territory. He goes all over the place and he doesn't seem to mind them at all. And then as for cherry shrimp, I did keep clown killies with cherry shrimp, and I will say, they're killifish. They will go after, there were no more babies to be seen as soon as I add them in, and I bet they would go after juveniles and subadults, but the biggest adults they did leave alone, so just be aware of that. When it comes to ease of breeding, I personally have not bred either of them. I tried to with the clown killies, but I had shrimp in there, they ate all the eggs. But I have heard out of the two that clown killies are fairly easy to breed. which is good because they don't live very long. So the main thing is you just want to put a spawning mop or floating plants in there. They will lay the eggs there. You can either collect them or just remove the whole spawning mop into a different, basically hatching container, and then go from there. Versus the chili rasboras, you're gonna get, I mean, they're an egg scatter. You're gonna get nearly microscopic fry, and so you're gonna have to work really hard to feed them. I'm sure tiny things like, oh, I'm trying to think, Paraceum, I can't say it right now, green water, maybe golden pearls, like the 5 to 50 micron, you could try that. But eventually, for both of them, you would eventually want to get them to live baby brine shrimp so they can really grow big and fast quickly. So now we come to the question, which is better? And you guys, I cannot decide. I really love them both. I think the chili rasboras might be better for a 5-gallon tank just because they are more visible in a smaller amount of space versus the clown killifish. They're a little bit bigger, you can put them with more tank mates, and they have the flexibility to go with a community tank of more different kinds of species. But I think it'd be really fun to keep both of them in the same tank one day and see what that looks like. So let me know down in the comments which one you guys prefer. I want to give a huge thank you to all my members for all you guys' support over the months and years. And yeah, I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye!